Good morning, everyone. And today we are going to see about the circulatory system. I think all of you know the circulatory system. It is comprised of the two types of the fluids. One is the blood and as well as the lymph. So the functions of the circulatory system are it will be helpful to carry the nutrients, oxygen and other needed materials which to the cells. So it also carries the carbon dioxide and other waste away from the cells. And blood helps fight diseases and heal the wounds. It also helpful to maintain the body temperature and bring the homeostasis. So the function of the heart, it is a muscular organ in the circulatory system that is responsible for pumping the blood throughout the blood vessels to our body. And the heart, it is made up of with the cardiac muscle. It is richly supplied with the blood, gets plenty of oxygen to the heart through the coronary arteries, and it respires aerobically. It is richly supplied with the mitochondria and gets energy it needs. So the heart pumps around 2000 gallons of blood every day. And the heart, it is made up of with the cardiac muscle. So the cardiac muscle, it is also having the why it is called as cardiac muscle means it is exclusively present in the heart, so that's why it is called as the cardiac muscle. And as I have mentioned, the heart is a hollow muscular organ, and it is mesodermal in origin, and it is situated in the thoracic cavity behind the sternum between the two lungs, in middle media sternum between the second rib and as well as the fifth intercostal space. The heart, it is a cone shaped, hollow, thick, muscular, reddish brown organ having the base above and apex below. The heart is tilted slightly towards the left side and lies on the diaphragm, and it has the size of the clenched fist of your own. It is around 12 centimeter in length, 9 centimeter in breadth and 6 centimeters in thickness, and weighs around 250 to 300 grams. And the heart, the coverings of the heart, if you see, the heart is covered by a protective double layered membrane called pericardium, which serves to hold the heart in position. The pericardium, it is a fibroserous sac that encloses the heart and the roots of the great vessels. It is made up of inner pericardium and an outer fibrous pericardium, which is very tough white fibrous tissue which protects the heart from the mechanical injury. The inner pericardium composed of the visceral layer that lines the surface of the heart, and parietal layer lines the internal surface of the fibrous pericardium. Between the outer and as well as inner layer, there is a narrow space that it is called as the pericardial cavity, which is filled up with a fluid called as the pericardial fluid. So which will be helpful. It acts as a lubricant. The heart moist and reduces the friction between the heart wall and the surrounding tissues during the heartbeat. And as I have mentioned, the layers of the heart are the epicardium and as well as the myocardium and as well as the endocardium. The epicardium, it is a very smooth serous outer layer, consists of the simple squamous epithelium and connective tissue protect from trauma. The myocardium, it is a middle layer of the heart, so which is composed of cardiac muscle and responsible for the pumping of the heart. Endocardium, it is composed of a simple squamous epithelial layer that lines the inside of the heart. The endocardium may regulate metabolic waste removal from the heart tissues and acts as a barrier between the blood and as well as the heart muscles. This is the structure of the heart. If you see, there are chambers of the heart is there. The heart has four chambers, namely two auricles and as well as the two ventricles. The auricles are named as the right auricle and as well as the left auricle. So the auricles are also called as the atrium, and it is also called as the receiving chambers. As the as they'll be receiving the blood in the auricle, so that's why they are called as the receiving chambers. And the two larger lower chambers which are called as the ventricles. So ventricles are called as the pumping chambers, which are present on the right and as well as the left side of the lung. Okay, the right side of the heart is concerned with the deoxygenated blood, and the left side of the heart is concerned with the oxygenated blood. The walls of the auricles are composed of the thinner muscles. So the ventricles have the thickest wall. The walls of the left ventricles are thicker than that of the right ventricle, as the force of the contraction of the left ventricle is much greater. The interior of each ventricular wall is marked by the thickened column of the muscles, which are projected by the papillary muscles, which will be attached to the cusp of the auriculoventricular valves through the cardiac tendinae, which are the cardiac tendinae, which are known as the heart strings, which will be preventing the prolapse of these valves when the ventricles contract. So as I have mentioned, the atria, these are the receiving chambers of the heart, and the blood enters the left atrium from the pulmonary veins. And ventricles of the heart, as they are called as the discharging chambers, or it is also called as the pumping chambers of the heart. The right ventricle pumps blood into the pulmonary trunk. Left ventricle pumps blood into the aorta. And if you see the valves of the heart, so the pathway of the blood through the heart, so the deoxygenated blood from the body enters the right side of the heart through the two large veins called as the vena cava, that is the inferior and as well as the superior vena cava. So through that, the superior vena cava gets the blood from the head, arms, and as well as the inferior vena cava collects the blood from the rest of the body, and it will be poured into the right auricle. Okay, so the superior and inferior vena cava empty the deoxygenated blood into the right from the right auricle to the right ventricle by the opening of the valves, that is the tricuspid one. Between the right auricle and right ventricle, there are valves which are called as the tricuspid valves, which is also called as the auriculoventricular valves. In the same manner, so in the left auricle and as well as the in between the left auricle and left ventricle, it is also having the valves which is called as the bicuspid valve, which is also called as the mitral valve. So the pulmonary artery carries the blood away from the right ventricle to the lungs for the purification. So after leaving the heart, the pulmonary artery divides into right and as well as the left pulmonary arteries, which carry blood to the right and as well as the left lungs, where the blood gives up carbon dioxide and takes on a fresh supply of the oxygen. So from that, from the there will be two types of the circulations are there. One is the systemic circulation and as well as the pulmonary circulation. So this is the pathway. So if you see there will be like a systemic circulation. In this circulation, the oxygenated blood from the left auricle to the left ventricle of the heart is pumped to all the parts of the body except the lungs through the aorta. After this, the deoxygenated blood from the various parts comes back to the heart by the superior and as well as the inferior vena cava to the right auricle. So this completes the first circulation. So this is called as the systemic circulation. Now coming to the pulmonary circulation. In pulmonary circulation, the deoxygenated blood through from the inferior and superior vena cava enters the right atrium into the right ventricle and then pumped to the lungs through the pulmonary artery. In lungs, deoxygenated blood is again converted back to the oxygenated blood and sent back to the heart in left auricle by the pulmonary veins. So this completes the second circulation. So this is called as the pulmonary circulation. So like this, here the vena cava carries the deoxygenated blood from the body to the right atrium. So from the right atrium to the right ventricle, then it will be going to the pulmonary arteries. So that it is as I have mentioned, the pulmonary circulation and as well as the systemic circulation. And there will be the heart valves are there. So the heart valves which will be helpful for the unidirectional blood flow through the heart. So there will be like auriculoventricular valves will be there, which will be present between the auricles and as well as the ventricles. This auriculoventricular valves will prevent the backflow of the blood into the atria when the ventricles contract. So in between the right auricle and as well as the right ventricle, so the valves which are present are called as the auriculoventricular valves, so that it is called as the tricuspid valve. And in between the left auricle and as well as the left ventricle, the valves which are present are called as the auriculoventricular valves. Those valves are named as the bicuspid valve, or it is also called as the mitral valve. So this is about the auriculoventricular function. So this is how the blood, whenever the blood will be moving from the auricles to the ventricles, then the semilunar valves will be closed. Whenever the semilunar valves will be open, then there will be the closing of the auriculoventricular valves. So the semilunar valves, it is nothing but the aortic valve and as well as the pulmonary valve. So the from the right auricle to the right ventricle, the opening of the auriculoventricular valves will be taking part. From the ventricles, from the right ventricle, the blood will be moving to the pulmonary artery. So through the pulmonary valve, and the, which is called as the semi-lunar valve. And from the left auricle to the left ventricle, the blood will be moving by the opening of the bicuspid valve or mitral valve. And from the left ventricle, the blood will be moved to the aorta through the aortic valve. So which is also called as the semi-lunar valve. So these are all the semi-lunar heart valves will be present, and there will be like the pulmonary semi-lunar valves. These are also preventing the flow of blood into the ventricles. The aortic valve, auriculoventricular valves will be having the cardiac tendinae, but whereas the semi-lunar heart valves, they don't have the cardiac tendinae. So aortic semilunar valves, as I have mentioned, it will be lying between the left ventricle and the aorta. So the heart sounds also will be present. So which will be referred as the lub dub. So due to the valves of the closing. So the closing of the auriculoventricular valves will be producing the lub sound, and the closing of the semilunar valves will be producing the dub sound. So there will be like the septum is also present. So the septa, it is nothing but the division in order to mark that one. So that will be present interatrial septum. So it will be located between the right and as well as the left atria, so that it can prevent the mixing of the blood flow, and as well as interventricular septum. So it is present between the right and as well as the left ventricles. So these septa will be helpful to prevent the mixing of the blood between the auricles and as well as the between the two ventricles. So this is about the heart valves, which will be already I have mentioned. So these are called as the cardiac tendinae, and there will be like a, conducting system of the heart also will be taking part. So the conducting system of the heart will be occurring by the stimulation of the SA node, which is present in the right auricle, and from there the message will be passed to the auriculoventricular node. So from the auriculoventricular node, so the rhythm will be transferred to the bundle of his and as well as the Purkinje fibers. So where there will be stimulation of the ECG will be taking part PQRST. So it is nothing but the systole and as well as the diastolic contraction of the auricles and as well as the ventricles will be taking part. This is how the conducting system of the heart will be occur. So the SA node, it is also called as the sino-auricular node. It is also called as the pacemaker of the heart, which is responsible for the stimulation of the heartbeat. The cardiac cycle, the heart is a muscular pumping organ and the heart beats at the rate of the 72 times per minute. So this is called as the cardiac cycle. So the cardiac cycle where there will be like a systole and as well as the diastole will be taking part. Systole is nothing but the phase of the contraction which is taking around 0.27 seconds. During systole, cardiac muscle tissue contracts to push blood out of the chamber, whereas in the diastole it is a phase of the relaxation, so it is taking around 0.53 seconds. So totally during diastole the cardiac muscle cells relax to allow the chamber to fill with the blood. Totally the cardiac cycle timing is, it will be taking around 0.8 seconds. Thank you.